Hello and welcome to WNC Original Music episode 88, the piano episode. Ironic because I don't think there's any piano on this episode in any of these songs, although there is some keyboard. This week's episode features Western North Carolina's own The Get Right Band. They have a new album out called Itchy Soul, which we'll mostly be talking about. It is their fifth album, and it has some really strong songwriting and some really strong production. And it's a little bit of a different approach for the band to recording and songwriting, or I guess a development, you might say. You can find the album and a whole lot of other stuff at their website, thegetrightband.com, and also follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and you can stream their music on all the streaming and download platforms. They were nice enough to send along tracks from the album, which you're going to be hearing some of in this first part of their episodes. Really enjoyed talking to these guys. They're a lot of fun, and they know their music. And here they are, the Get Right Band.
You wonder what your role is in this country and what your future is in it. From my point of view, no label, no slogan, no party, and no skin color, and indeed no religion is more important than the human being.
Yeah, Wired. I mean, yeah, it's incredible. Like Silas said, we did all the drums over at Echo, and then we just did everything at home. And this one was kind of cool. I know a lot of it was on Silas because there's a lot of cool like guitar and synthesizer and keyboard effects and things like that. And so it was kind of nice with this song in particular, I would say, doing it at home because, JC already laid down like these raging drums, and then Silas and I come in and do like the bass, guitar, and the key parts and just like layer it over and over and over again. There's a really cool riff that kind of happens, and it was just really nice being able to have the time and space to do that at home and really just play around with sounds and really kind of dial all that kind of stuff in.
Yeah, and I don't know. Sorry, go ahead, JC.
I was going to say also, this song in particular, one aspect of doing the drums at Echo and then everything else at home is this song in particular is maybe one of the most synth heavy songs that we've ever put out, and
yeah,
I think, that in part has to do with the process. There's a lot more synth and keyboard stuff on this album in general, but I think
who's playing the synths?
All three of us actually played synth on various parts of the record. On this song, it's me, but there's also some like electronic percussion stuff that JC's doing on this song.
Yeah, and I think, just to restate, I think that's part of the way that we did this album too, is just having time to play around with those sounds and layer in things that we won't necessarily do or try to recreate live, and just let them be part of the album.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if the three of us have talked about this, but in my thinking about the album, this song, Wired, and then also track 6, No Sound, were kind of like the turning points for me in terms of wrapping my brain around how we were going to really approach this album, because we had talked a lot in advance about doing something more experimental and with more like modern pop elements on top of our kind of psychedelic rock thing that we always do. But it took some trial and error in going kind of down different paths to figure out just, how that was going to really manifest. And Wired was definitely one of the ones for me where when we started figuring out the direction of this song, it helped me understand the full album, where I was like, okay, this is how we're going to approach, it helped give the album a voice, I guess.
So you guys, when you play live, you always do the guitar, bass, and drums. No one ever plays keyboards live?
Rarely, yeah. We occasionally have guest musicians, and for the album release show, which was supposed to be on May 23rd, we have a second guitar player lined up for that, which Matt Lane, he'll be with us. He's an actual musician. He'll be with us whenever that release show happens. But yeah, so we are usually the trio, but occasionally we have guest musicians.
Rejection.
JC, I feel like this is your favorite song on the record, or one of them.
I mean, my favorite song is Ever Changing, but I think it's a good song. If you were going to kind of pick a track to kind of represent a general direction of what to expect on the album, it's a good song for that. It's very driving song, and I feel like it's early in the album. It sets a tone, and I feel like in general this album is a very different direction from our last release, and I don't know, this song in particular is a good song to kind of set the stage as to what to expect on the rest of it.
Yeah, and I hadn't really thought about it until right now, but this song is a little bit, has some of that same quality that I said about Wired, where it was kind of an early focus point for the direction that this album was going to go, and even less so in terms of production, but more so just in terms of like songwriting, because this is, I think, one of the older songs on the record. It feels like, I don't know, we've been playing it live for a while, and I remember when I brought it to the guys, I had recorded like kind of a rough demo of it with the idea for moving the song in this direction, and at the time it felt so unlike what we normally do that I remember like kind of saying to them, like, is this even a song you want to do? Do we want to do something in this direction? Whereas, that was maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago or something. And now it feels exactly like JC said, that it kind of is the direction that we're going. So it was sort of an early movement in that direction.
Yeah, and if I may add, unless Ron, you needed to move this along.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I would just say that this song, like Silas was saying, really kind of takes us, it's like the direction that we were trying to go. And as somebody that, like myself, I really historically have resisted change, this song in particular was kind of the turning point for me as well, in the sense that it really opened my eyes to effects on the bass, the sound of the band, the production of the album, as well as, a nice training ground for us for the production of the album, because with like the drum sounds, I just remember we spent so much time on just the sound of like the snare drum in particular, and just kind of making sure everything sounded fat. And so for somebody that doesn't like, historically hasn't really liked change too much, and has not particularly loved being in the studio, this song was quite enjoyable for me, in the sense that it got me around to kind of liking those things, and kind of brought me up to speed as to where the band was going. So that song. This song is pretty meaningful for me as well.
Nice.
That actually relates to what I was about to ask. Is you guys have mentioned a couple times already that this is a different direction for you. It sounds like that was kind of intentional. That you said, did you sit down and say, we want to go in a different direction, or is it more, we are going in a different direction, we feel like it's happening, let's kind of continue it, or we've noticed it after the recording, or how did that happen?
I think it was actually kind of all those things. It was sort of a perfect storm of feeling like, we're always trying to move in a new direction. We never want to be repeating ourselves. So that's one thing. But some of it happens organically from my songwriting. Some of it happens organically from the way Jesse and JC bring their parts and their arrangement to the songs. And then I think too, we just, we try to follow our muses, and it feels to me like our muses had been pulling us in a more rock direction, as well as a more pop direction, as well as a more psychedelic direction. And it was just a matter of figuring out how to marry all those things. And kind of around the same time that we were starting to put this record together, we were also having a conversation about how we label ourselves genre-wise, which is, something it would be cool to not even have to do. But obviously, the world we live in, everyone, that's the first quote. What kind of music do you guys play? What do you call your music? And for years, we'd been calling the band funk rock reggae, which felt accurate for a while in the early years of the band. But I think without us realizing it, it had kind of stopped being as accurate, even though there's still elements of that in our music. It had been moving in this more rock direction. And so, as this stuff was happening naturally, we also sat down and had a conversation where we said, like, maybe this isn't the right way to present ourselves anymore. And then we came up with calling it psychedelic indie rock, which also has its limitations as any label would. But I feel like that, for me, and I think for all of us, that really kind of like changed our mentality. It really made us, it put into words something that we all had been kind of feeling happening. And that coincided with the getting started on this record. So it sort of happened organically. And then there was a moment where we kind of realized it and acknowledged it and put it into words.
Yeah. And I would just add that, Silas and I have, this is Jesse. Silas and Jesse have been playing together for 20 plus years. And as with any relationship, you can't do the same thing over and over again and still, be as happy as you were. We do what we do very well, but you always have to change up what you're doing in order to enjoy yourself and to keep things fresh. As with, any relationship, any marriage or whatever, you can't just go about your business and expect to be happy for the rest of your life if you don't put in some work and try to grow and change together. And so this, I think also timing it with doing the album ourselves, it was just a good chance for growth and change that we were all excited about.
Yeah, for ourselves and for the fans.
Did you guys have any, during the kind of lead up to this album, did you have any songs either finished or just that you're working on where you kind of started on it and then just said, you know what, that's from 2 albums ago. We're not going to put that on this album, so we're not going to pursue it?
That's a good question. I don't think that did happen. I mean, I guess when it came down to selecting which songs, like we definitely have songs that we play live that we chose not to include, songs that we play live that haven't been on a record. I think there are some of those, although the live album had some of those on it. But yeah, I don't think we started any that didn't go through. Do you guys remember?
I mean,
I have no memory of it.
I just generally, I know there's songs. There's songs that have come in and out of our repertoire that
definitely
we've tried at various points to include these songs, and I think the more that we play together and newer songs are hitting that much better, we're just kind of like, well, we don't want to play these songs anymore because we're not really putting our best foot forward. But maybe we'll come back to them at another point down the road when we've had some time to kind of maybe we'll do it later, maybe we won't. But I think the more that we play together, the higher kind of that bar gets set. And if something's not hitting to that level, then I think we all kind of agree, like, we should just put it aside for now.
Yeah. And it also, it happens some for me on just the songwriting level, like personally, where I certainly started writing songs for, thinking that maybe they would be for this record, and then, either just didn't finish them because I knew it wasn't as strong, or, I've written, many, many songs that I don't ever take to the band because I already know that they're not up to par with the stuff that we're doing. But I think, like, kind of like JC is saying, like, the longer we're together, the more the higher that bar goes, but also the better we know ourselves. And so I think it's gotten easier for us to say, like, I think I have a clearer sense of what's going to work really well and what's not. And so sometimes I write a song that, right as I'm writing it, I'm thinking this is going to be great for the band, but then sometime kind of early in the process I go, no, it's not quite there yet. Whereas that used to be a little harder of a process, I think, before we knew ourselves and knew the identity of the band quite as clearly.
More from the Get Right Band in just a few moments. We want to remind you to download their new album at thegetrightband.com. Also, this is their 5th album. Go back and download all their albums. They will have done this by the time the podcast episode airs, but they are on the release date of the album. They are doing a YouTube discussion with the band about the album. So if you're enjoying this podcast episode, I bet you will enjoy that YouTube discussion. And if you're not enjoying this podcast episode, then you also still will probably enjoy it, because the only difference will be it will be just them talking and not me. And so, you'll enjoy it, and that will hurt my feelings. But, whatever, I'm fine. So again, check that out on their YouTube channel. We'll put the links in the show notes, and also follow them on Facebook and Instagram, and be ready, because when live music starts up, they are going to be a great band to see.
This is Antonio Roberto from Shadow Show and the Sidewalk Surfers, and you're listening to WNC Original Music Podcast. Hit subscribe.
I don't want to delve too much on the pandemic or anything, but what are some positives you've taken away from this?
Well, I mean, for me, there's been a lot of time to focus on some of the creative stuff that, is hard to find time to do when you're touring a lot. So I've been working on new songs, and I also think the live stream thing that all musicians are doing more of now, which the Get Right Band did once, and Jesse and I did as a duo once, is a really interesting and kind of cool outlet. It's weird to not have the audience there and to not be able to feel their energy directly in the moment or hear them cheer or whatever. But on the flip side, it's exciting to be able to reach everyone who has an internet connection, as opposed to just, we have fans. Like, I looked at our Spotify stats the other day, and we have a bunch of people streaming in like the Netherlands and New Zealand, and we're not touring to those places, so we it's cool to be able to put on a show that those people can watch as well. And then it's also really cool to be able to see comments in real time, and our fans fans were just so sweet and complimentary, and it feels good. It's nice to be able to see someone say, I love this new song you guys are playing. We don't get that kind of detailed feedback. It's more of like just a general applause or energetic feedback during a live show, but it's so that's a cool experience.
I imagine you're getting maybe some people listening or watching your music that maybe don't go to live shows.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
I feel like too, people are just, I think because more people are at home, more people are listening and watching stuff. So just in general, for people putting out any kind of creative media on the internet right now, it's the silver lining of it for, people doing that is that I think there's just more eyes on it right now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, like I personally have been listening to a lot more music, since COVID-19 happened. As I'm normally a fairly busy person and I like activities to do to keep myself occupied. But now that I have virtually nothing to occupy my time, I have been definitely just like blaring music constantly, and it's been pretty nice, honestly.
On old familiar maps, and we build roads to the future, or we come here from the past, and we make daily sacrifice to every god we've resurrected. We move like new age shamans to cure the disconnected, guided by angels as we navigate these devils, always searching for the meaning, always searching for the levels. And here we are, arcing magic to the disbelieving masses, with a pink neon sign lit by vaudeville's ashes. We fight fire with, we fight fire with, we fight fire with rain. We fight fire with, we fight fire with, we fight fire with rain. We peel off one mask just to slide into another. We reflect to the world the foolish folly of struggle. We beseech you to think, because thoughts can make love. We invite you to forget, sometimes thinking is too much. We rub wood together, we wage war with the fire, like cultural warriors with a nomad's empire. The need swells from inside, there was never a choice. You are obliged to sing loudly if you are given a voice.
This one's your baby, Jesse.
Yeah, this song kind of blows my mind. I really love this song because it's one of those songs that playing it live is so fun, and people just immediately start moving to it, and so it embodies our sound pretty well as far as like kind of our newer sound, but also bringing a lot of like the dancing elements of our origins, and it's just a fresh song, and I really love it, the sound of it, the writing of it, and I was just very pleased when we started recording it because it got weird. I mean, we definitely, there's a lot of loops, and synthetic sounds, like synthetic. I mean, basically there's synth everything in this song, but there's also live everything, and it's just a perfect blend of loops and live sounds, and it's just a fascinating song to me because it really encapsulates our sound, our live sound. But it's one of the, I would say, most quote unquote doctored or produced songs on the album. So that I love it. I love it because like I was saying earlier, I haven't been historically a fan of the studio, but with this album, it's really brought me around, and this song as well, just in the sense that, there's no ceiling. We can do whatever we want. And I think this song, we really just pushed as far as possible in that sense.
It was interesting. I did an interview recently for another media outlet about this album, and the interviewer said that this felt like a triptych, like it had Fire with Rain had three completely distinct sections, which is completely true. And oddly, I'd kind of never thought of it that way. So it's kind of interesting it feels very much like one thing to me, but it really does kind of have like that Rhapsody feel of some drastically different sections.
Remember when the DJ's on the radio?
Yeah, nothing on the FM. Let's see, Jesse and JC, would you guys agree that this song maybe changed like the most from any song from the live version to the studio version?
I would say, yeah.
I would agree.
Because we had put, I think this is the only song on the album that was on a previous recording. This was on our live album, and the live version obviously is exactly how we do it live. So we wanted to do something really different so that it felt like there was a good reason to put it on two different records. And maybe more than any other song, this song took a long time to figure out how to do it. Some songs like Itchy Soul, I feel like we knew how that song was going to go, and we banged it out pretty fast in terms of how to produce it. But Nothing on the FM took a long time, took a lot of weird turns that we didn't, like, sending ideas around back and forth and trying things. And it finally settled into something that is I think really cool and definitely one of my favorite tracks on the record.
I think too, one of the challenges with figuring out the sound of this song is that, like Silas was saying, because we had already put it on the live album and we had played it live so much up to that point that it, kind of gets ingrained in us in a certain way, and then as we start to change it, it's almost like I want to hear it how we used to do it, but the challenge came in, how do we bring this song into this kind of new territory that we're going into?
Totally.
But still try to keep all the elements of what we liked about it from the live album. So I don't know. I think we achieved that, but it was challenging.
Yeah, there was an interesting part in the process where I got obsessed with Thai funk, and I was like, that's the answer to Nothing on the FM. I'd been kind of banging my head against the wall trying to figure out how to produce that one, and I was like, we're making it a Thai funk song, and I went really deep, kind of like pushing it in that direction, and I think JC and Jesse were like, there's a couple elements of that I like, and so we kind of backtracked on almost all of that, but we kept a couple elements, and I think it kind of progressed like that, where we kept sort of going down a path and going, that's not quite right, but I do like this thing and that thing, so let's back up but keep those, and then going down different roads, and finally it just kind of came together.
I do feel like Thai funk is kind of the answer to everything nowadays, though.
That's how I personally feel.
Have you guys played all of these songs live already?
No, not all of them. I guess maybe about half of them we are part of our regular repertoire, and then roughly half of them will become part of our regular repertoire once the album comes out.
Okay, I want to thank the Get Right Band for being on the podcast. This is part one. We'll probably have 2 more episodes of this. Also, I forgot to introduce the band. The band are Silas DeRocher on guitar, JC Mears on drums, and Jesse Gentry on bass. And all the guys cover vocals and some keyboard parts as well. And a lot of other stuff, I'm sure. Make sure to go and find their music and other stuff at thegetrightband.com. The new album is called Itchy Soul, and as you've just heard 4 songs off of it. It is a great, great album. Make sure to listen to and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. That includes your regular podcasting platforms like iTunes or Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, Spotify, places like that. But also, you can get your smart speaker to play the podcast, and you can find us on Pandora and YouTube. Also, look for our podcast group on Facebook. That's Western NC Original Music. Made the name a little bit different just to be annoying, but there you can see stuff from the podcast, but also a whole lot of other stuff that people are sharing from other Western North Carolina musicians as well. Usually we have a closing song from a band outside Western North Carolina to end the show, but we're going to do a little bit different this week. One thing we've been doing on the podcast Facebook group page is having songs worth downloading, which are reviews of individual songs and a link that you can download to it. This is a way to encourage people to own and download the music they listen to, and also to get in the habit of paying for the music they listen to. And one of the administrators for the group, Alex Deutsch, has been doing audio versions of some of these reviews, and we've been putting them out as mini episodes. We're going to keep doing that. So I wanted you to hear one of those now. After this, you'll hear the reviews from Alex as mini episodes, and there's a couple already up. But right now, here is Alex discussing the Deathbots song, Just Go.
I adore the Deathbots. Almost no one makes music like this anymore, but Fat Wreck's Epitaph-style punk rock was my first love. Their sound in general, and in particular their song Just Go, is some unpretentious, straightforward rockin' good times. Carl's vocals are slightly reminiscent of Glenn Danzig on this track, but less obnoxiously stylized and more honest. His guitar tone is perfect for his unapologetic power chords and octave riffs. Brandon's backup woes are sublime, and his drums are rocking and loud. I'll say that again, loud. Scott Sturdy's bass is driving and provides pop-punk counter-melody perfection. You still don't want to download this song? What are you, a poser?
He's devilishly handsome, ladies.